Hello, everybody. Lisa Kipps-Brown, your host for Adaptable Entrepreneurs, and I want to welcome y'all to a very special episode of my show tonight. Special time and special guest, the most interesting man in the world. I don't care what the commercials say, Mr. Steve Sims. He is my mentor and I can't even get it. The author of this wonderful, wonderful book, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. And we are celebrating the 3rd anniversary. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't read the book yet, you've been under a rock somewhere. I don't know where, but you've been under a rock and you need to go read it or you're probably going to go out of business. So I have Steve on here just to chat and talk about everything and about how wonderful it is. How many languages is your book out in now?
Oh, jeepers. I should actually post a picture of that, but we've got Korean, Thai, Vietnamese, Mandarin Chinese, Polish. Currently, it's being translated into Russian. It's a bestseller in all those other languages, and the English one obviously gets everywhere else. So
yeah,
it's kind of amazing, the different looks and covers.
Tell everybody the background of the book. How this is such a surprise for you.
So for many years, I run a very large experiential concierge firm that looked after billionaires, and we would do things like send them down to the Titanic, get them a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, get them married in the Vatican by the Pope, close down a museum in Florence for a dinner party of 6, and get Andrea Bocelli to come in. We were basically the wish fulfillment or the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks. And I was always the guy in the black T-shirt that hovered in the corner. In fact, I've been to events that I made happen for my clients. They brought guests, and the guests have actually given me car keys, thinking I was like either the head valet or security. And I've always been polite.
Yeah.
No one ever knew who I was, and I was very happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say you are the party you're in. So, I was always very fortunate to be in the rooms of, quite powerful people. And I was in a party in New York, and this girl I was introduced to was one of the heads of one of the largest publishing houses in the planet called Simon Schuster. Yeah. And someone had spoken to her about this weird bald guy drinking his, umpteenth old fashioned. And she came over and chatted with me and literally on the spot said, "We should do a book and you can name all the most powerful and celebrity people you deal with." And I said, "I can't do that or I'd be dead by the time I ordered my next drink."
Yeah.
And that was the end of the conversation. I thought I was dead, couldn't even remember the conversation. And then a week later, I got asked that instead of doing the book about who I worked for, how could I, this bricklayer from London, suddenly be dealing with Richard Branson and Elon Musk? Would you be prepared to write that book? And I thought to myself, yes, I'm always aggravated how people give themselves too many excuses. I can't do this because I don't have a website. I can't do this because I don't have a CRM funnel. My click funnel campaign's no good. There's always an excuse of why you're useless.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, I could do the book. So I had all this gutso, and I was paid heavily to do the book. But the beautiful thing is, because I was paid so heavily, I didn't care, and this sounds rude, and I'm sorry, but I didn't care if it sold. I wasn't worrying about the commission sales because I already got paid, which gave me the luxury of being able to write the book I wanted to write because I had no liability now.
Yeah.
So I just wrote a book that hopefully could get people to do things differently, give them an excuse to do rather than an excuse not to, get them to focus on their I can over their IQ, and really just kind of like work that. And we didn't think it would go anywhere. I released a book they released a book 3 years from this Saturday, and we didn't have a website. We literally just had an Amazon link. And they said to us, "We need you to do a big launch party." And I said, "Oh, what do you need me to do?" And they said, and this was the dumb thing. They had been wiring me large chunks of money, but they posted me this check, which was really weird. They posted me a check for $2,500. And they said there's a Barnes and Noble and I live in Los Angeles, and there's an affluent thing called the Grove. And they said there's a Barnes and Noble at the Grove, rent a table, buy champagne, and sign copies on a Saturday afternoon. And I thought, you're wandering through Barnes and Noble with your kids. What possibly is going to come over you that you're going to go, hey, I'm going to talk to that tattooed pierced biker and find out what he's got to say? You're not going to do it.
Right.
So I literally went to a local whiskey bar that I frequented, and I signed the check over to him. And I said, look, when the lights go off or when the check runs out, turn the lights on and kick us out. And that was it. And they said to me, they said, well, look, for there to be a book launch, you have to put a display of books. So I literally shoved a pile of books, no thought behind it, on the end of the bar. I invited a whole bunch of my friends, and we just turned up, got drunk, and then we ran out of money and we left. And that was it. So I never put any thought behind it, but a beautiful couple called Cole and Sonia Hatter, who are the people behind the big Thrive event in Vegas. She, the lying little person that she is, she had a camera and she wanted to get some footage for her husband's sizzle reel. And she said, can we use your party as the backdrop? And I went, I don't care. But what I didn't realize she was doing was they constructed a video where they interviewed people about Steve Sims.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the video that's on the Steve D. Sims website.
Okay.
And so we put no thought behind it. We also put no care behind it because we didn't know we were being videoed.
Yes.
So if you watch the beginning of the video, everyone's sober. And they're all kind of like, they're all like, Steve, this is an honor to be here in your first book. And they're all very sensible.
Yeah.
And then as the night gets on, they're all kind of like, I didn't know you could even spell, you know, and oh my God, what's this book about? You know, is it about fishing? I don't want to fish. And so it's just a hilarious video.
I need to go rewatch that because it's been a long time since I've
seen
it.
We just thought, at least it's me. And you know my opinion of branding. I don't. This is it. You know, love it, leave it, whatever. And so I thought to myself, because the publishing house was going, you've got to do a website for the book. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to stick that video up there. And people are going to be able to make their own judgment on whether or not this is a man they want to find out about, and whether or not they're ready to get uncomfortable and make a change. So I posted the video up there, and the rest is history. It did nothing. It did nothing for 2 months. And I was like, ooh, okay, well, that was fun. And then it went bang. And that's when all the international orders started. That's when all the translations started. And it's 3 years later, I look back and I'm like, how the hell? If I had not been in that party, if I had not spoken with that girl, if I had not made the joke about the book, you know, we wouldn't be here now. And doing all speakeasies. That's
the thing that people lose sight of. It's all the little things in life that add up, that turn into the big things, the big picture. And I love it that video was basically the virtual chug test.
Yes, it totally is. And you're writing a book, so you know this. Well, you've written books before, but when you actually write books, and I say that plural because obviously you have, or you are, but I haven't, you know? So when writing this book, it suddenly caused me to analyze what it is I did to get to X, Y, Z. And the funny thing is you sit there and you go, well, I did this and I did this, and then I did this. And you think this is the big thing. What you don't realize is that it's the little marbles that actually create the big movement. And it gives you the time to reflect and go, and it's the people that turn around and go, I never would have thought of doing this. Like you say to someone getting a couple married in the Vatican by the Pope, and they go, I could never do. But at the end of the day, it's a public place by a public servant doing a public event. Yeah. You know, if you break it down to just its, you know, bare parameters, it's got a lot more ego and gloss around it. But if you just tear it down and then just start chipping away again, it's amazing what you can do. But too many people look at the big picture and they look at the Himalayas. And they go, oh, I remember being in Nepal and going to first camp, and first camp is the first camp of going up Everest.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's basically at the bottom. Okay. You're not even in the snow. I was there and it wasn't even snowing. and I joked, I went, my God, how the hell did you get up there? And the guy just turned around and said, it's easy. You get there first, and pointed to the base camp.
Yeah.
So just get moving.
The next one. Yeah.
There you go. So it was kind of astonishing, revealing, and exciting, and terrifying, and all of these things.
Yeah. Well, I have read the book so many times, I can't even count. And as a matter of fact, I'm rewriting it now since I'm writing my own book. But one of the things that I love is that, you know, we talk a lot about how as entrepreneurs, we're too close to our own stuff and we need to surround ourselves with people. I love the fact that early on, when were you even doing it as a business then, or just as like favors when you were setting up trips and things for people when you were at the bar?
So I was trying to hack it. I'm very primitive. You know that. You can tell people that, and it's not offensive.
No,
I am incredibly basic. If you can't explain it on the back of a postcard, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was poor. I knew I was poor. You know, most of my friends were poor. I knew that I had to speak to people that were not. You know, there's an old saying that, you know, you are the combination. I openly say that you are the party you're in. Mm-hmm. So I needed to make sure I was in a room full of rich people. So when I started, and I was a doorman, so I started doing like after hours, you know, drinking and then taking over club. And I would only invite rich people, you know. I never wanted to be a concierge. I never wanted to do this with the Pope and Elon Musk and Branson. I never went out of my way to do it. I wanted to speak to the guy that was going to pay for it.
You wanted a job, right?
Well, I wanted an insight. I wanted to find the job actually came, but my whole focus was I wanted to speak to a billionaire and ask him, why are you rich and I'm not?
Yeah.
So
well, I remember when you talked about going to all those lunches every day, and you would dress up in your suit every day and have lunch with these successful businessmen. And finally, one day, Claire, for y'all who aren't familiar with Steve, she's his lovely wife.
Yeah.
Claire was like, why the hell are you doing this? Yeah. You have this other thing. Why are you trying to get a job with these people? And that's when the light came on for you. And that shows for all of us pretty much. We're too close to our own stuff. You know,
I was throwing parties. I was throwing parties every night. Well, not every night, but I was throwing parties like a couple of times a month, yachts, mansions, and I was turning up in a black t-shirt and jeans like I always do, like you always know. But when I went and had lunch with them, I would dress up and take my earrings out because I wanted to appeal to them. What I wasn't realizing was what was appealing to them was the people they were meeting in the evenings and in the more relaxed mode.
Right.
So I suddenly realized that just like most people do, we try to become someone that we hope the other person is going to want to do business with. And that's a weird calculation. You never can hit it. And if you do hit it, all that does is mean that you end up working with someone that you're not really connected with because they don't know you. So it was Claire that really taught me that, you know, I was licking the tree that I couldn't see the forest. So yeah, that's thanks for Claire.
You said you asked some of those guys, why did you never offer me a job? And they're like, we never thought about it. Why would you have ever wanted a job? You had the life, right?
Yeah, it was weird. I was doing so much for these people. I've always had this philosophy that, you know, you've got to get engagement. Okay. Yeah. Until the world where likes and followers can pay my mortgage at the end of the month, I really don't care. I care about the engagement. And when you want to get commitment and get someone to move, then they have to pay. And if they don't pay, they don't pay attention. We all know that one. So I was building up this network and I was making money from it, but I never realized what I was creating. And the trouble is, a lot of us don't. We're creating this movement and our eyeballs are over there without realizing that we're actually going over here. So by the time that I was thinking, oh, I better get a job, Claire's like, but you've already got a client base. You've already got a reputation. And I was like, oh, I had to a point already arrived at a position without realizing I was even on the journey.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why I say there's so many good stories in this book, y'all. Whichever way, you have to read it if you haven't read it, and if you have read it, you have to read it again, because every time you read it, there are new things. One of my favorite sayings is from your dad, and I'm sure I probably heard it elsewhere, but I remember it all the time now, that people don't drown from falling in the water, they drown from not getting out.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so true. And we as entrepreneurs just get so stuck on our thing that we think this is it, and we're all guilty of it. And we don't realize that all we have to do is move over a little bit and we won't drown.
Yeah, I guarantee you, anyone that gets the book, and this is a celebration of the 3 years. So
Yeah.
if you're all out there thinking, well, why are they promoting the book so much? Because we're quite openly can't believe what it's done over these 3 years. But the book will annoy you. I guarantee you the book will aggravate and annoy you, because it will reveal stuff that for some reason you thought you were too smart to still do.
Yeah.
But that works. The amount of people that I've actually had say to me, this book pissed me off. And I'll be like, well, okay, why is that then? They said, because I was doing that and then I stopped doing it and I started focusing on my ClickFunnels campaigns and all these kind of things. And I lost focus on where I was going.
Yeah.
And, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but a hammer is still just as impactful. So, I got people to just reevaluate what they were doing, but more importantly, to understand where they're going. And, that's how it happened. And it's just surprised me how people have been able to look at it and gone, why did I stop doing that? I'm going to start doing that again. And of course, then they contact me and we end up taking it further.
Yeah. Well, and then, oh, by the way, y'all, my shirt, the Speakeasy, tell them about how that, yeah, woo! Only the Misfits. So if you're not a Misfit, you can't come, but tell them how that got started. Another accidental thing that is, and we love it.
Yeah, I love being the architect for creative disruptors. And I often find that, funny enough, where you end up was not where you started to go. Mm-hmm. And I had an argument with my daughter, anyone out there that's got teenage girls, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was coming up to my birthday. And I didn't want her to have to be disrespectful. I didn't want her to have to lie to herself and walk up to me and go, happy birthday, Dad, I love you. I didn't want to put her on the spot.
Yeah.
So I turned around to my wife and I went, I'm not going to be here. And she's like, what do you mean? I went, look, I'm 40. I don't know what I was, 49 or no. Yeah, about 49. I said, I don't need to be here. I'm 49 years old. I don't need another birthday cake. So I'm going to go away. And she, well, what are you going to do? And I went, I don't know. And I went on Facebook and I literally said, who wants to hang with me for 2 days? I'll answer any question. Okay. And I got a bunch of people say yes. And I went, okay, then I want commitment. Because again, there's another saying that I have is that everyone's interested until they have to pay.
Right.
And so I went, okay, if you're interested, I wanted to get the right kind of person. So I put a button, $2,000. I'm going to hold it somewhere. And that was it. And I wasn't sharing the information because I didn't have the information. I just thought if 10 people say yes, I'll get a room that can hold 10. And if they have these problems, then I'll answer those problems. So I was trying to get people to almost construct what they wanted rather than going to an event based on who there's going to be and the little sandwiches you're going to get at lunchtime. And so it took off. We did really well. But along the way, there was a friend of mine had a mansion. It wasn't really a mansion, a very large house. And it had no furniture. And he said, oh, you can use that. So I said, oh, I'm going to we're going to have to get some chairs or something. And the rental company had these colored bean bags. Now, I'm glad I didn't get them because they would have been all hot and sweaty in California. Yeah. But I said, oh, I'm going to get all these bean bags and we'll call it a beanbag mastermind. That's what we were going to call it. Mm-hmm. But because we hadn't come up with that name yet, one of the first attendees actually came up to me. And Neil Moore and Tim Larkin, who you've met, they were there the first ever one.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. And I turned around, and one of my attendees turned around and they said, are you going to tell us where it is? And I said, I can't. And they said, well, you going to tell us what time it starts? I said, yeah, it's going to start at 9 o'clock. What are we going to do? I can't tell you. Who we're going to meet? I can't tell you. And he turned around and he said, this is like a speakeasy. You know, you don't know what. Yeah. He said, you don't know what's going on, but you know that's where all the cool kids hang out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's correct. So literally before the event, we had the name, the Speakeasy, and then that was it. We just, I think San Diego in January will be our 10th.
Yeah.
And we now have SimsSpeakeasy.com. And as you can testify, we never tell you anything.
It's wonderful. And that's the best. It's just the excitement. It's like Christmas. You don't know. And not only before we get there do we not know, we don't even know the whole time we're there what we're going to see next, who is going to speak with us next, what we're going to do next, from shooting machine guns to throwing axes to just so much fun. I don't think I've ever asked you this. When you did the first one, were you already doing consulting and coaching, or did you still just have Bluefishing?
No, so in the latter years, probably the last 5 years of Bluefish, I was doing so much. I had already done so many events. Events were actually hiring me to focus on their marketing and branding.
Okay.
And so I was actually consulting for some of the biggest companies in the planet, you know, Tiffany, Ferrari, Piaget, you know, some major brands, Asprey. But I didn't think that was going to be where I was going to go. And also, as we all know, corporates are very slow to move.
Yes.
Very slow to change. And it wasn't exciting me. So I couldn't see it as a long-term thing. When the first Speakeasy came out and a couple of people came up and they went, hey, can you help us with this event or help us with my company? I think the first one I did was a product launch for a client of mine in Australia who, funny enough, was a Bluefishing client, but then got involved with me on this side of my world. And he said, we want to do a product launch in New York. And I said, well, let's go over your tone, your voice, your message, the point, what bruise you're poking. And he went, oh, so you consult on this? And because I had already done it on the market, I said, yeah. But then it kind of morphed into something else. So I suppose the early stages, we were trying to find out where it was necessary and what people needed.
Yeah.
And we had a few clients, and now we've got 18 full-on consulting clients we coach with and help them guide through, as you know, every month, whatever's coming up. And we noticed that it was better to go shoulder to shoulder with the person you're working with and going, hey, what are we fighting here? What are we looking to win? Rather than trying to do a structured 12-step program, which, let's be serious,
everybody.
It doesn't fit everybody. And if it's too structured, it always cracks.
Right.
So, but yeah, we started to morph. And people were saying to us about that they didn't want to do coaching. They didn't want to attend the events, but they did want to kind of be able to look at us virtually and over the digital ecosystem. So we launched Sims Distillery. So we basically responded rather than preempted what was going on. So that's the way I like to do business. You know, I'll openly say to people, hey, do you want sneakers? And if 20 people go yes, then ask those 20 people, what color do you want them? And if they say blue, then go and make blue sneakers. So give people what they want. To me, it never made any sense to try and design the market.
Well, I love too, like you said, they said, do you do consulting? And you're like, yeah, but you probably had no clue like how much you would charge because it wasn't what you've been doing. It was like your first speaking gig where you're like, I don't know how much, what am I? And you just pull a number out of your butt.
Yeah. I remember that. My speaking was funny. I think the first gig I did was $3,500. And then the next one, I went up and I was pushing it each time. And I got to 7.5, and then this guy was backstage, and he was chatting with us, and he was Mr. Ego. He was the keynote speaker, and I just thought to myself, well, I'm getting the sense that you're a bit of a dick, but I must be wrong because you're the keynote, you know. And he went out on stage and he gave this talk to. And I call it a talk to because he didn't interact with the community. He didn't answer any questions. He just yelled at them. You know, he was like, and then you do this and you do this and I did that and you did. And it was horrible. And so when he came back up, when he came off the stage, I realized he had helped nobody. You know, there was no impact. There was no lessons. And I said to him, how much do you charge? And he said, 7.5. And I said to him, and this is ballsy and probably a bit rude, and I apologize, but I turned around and I went, you know, I reckon I'm twice as good as you. So from now on, I'm 15 grand. And that was it. And the funny thing was, and you know this because I've talked to you about it during the Speakeasies, I've done lots of keynotes all over the world now. Mm-hmm. And I think it was about a year later down in San Diego that I did a keynote, and he was one of the support speakers.
Oh, funny.
And he reckoned that we'd never met. I went, hey, how are you? I remember seeing you. And he was like, oh, I don't recall that. I don't recall. And I was like, all right, mate, you want to play that? That's fine. Yeah. But it was kind of weird.
That is ridiculous. What is your favorite part of what you're doing now? And whatever that favorite part is, was what you like, was that fulfilled in any way through Bluefish? I know you were doing something totally different, but what you really like the best now, and were you getting that fulfillment in any way through Bluefish?
Yes to the no is a kind of a weird way to answer that. We are often very talented in doing something, but what we actually do only is using part of it. Mm-hmm. Now, what I liked about Bluefish was constantly being challenged. What I loved about Bluefish was getting to understand the core, never listening to the problem, but understanding why the problem even existed. I used to like that element. Okay. I also used to like the marketing, the positioning, and I would listen to what the person said, ignore it, and then try to find out what we needed to do to overachieve it. Mm-hmm. That's what I used to like. Now, I used to do all of that within a travel concierge firm. But when I got the chance now to actually do it with individuals, hey, now it became exciting. Yeah. Because when I'm spending a billionaire's money to take over a museum, hey, that's very exciting. But at the end of the night, or the following day, should we say, all we've done is spent a lot of money to give him an amazing cocktail story. We haven't created any impact. We haven't created any longevity. We haven't created any substance or reason. And there's nothing behind it. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, when I started working with entrepreneurs, and like I spoke to, and we've got a mutual friend, he contacted me today, and we were doing one of our coaching updates today, and he starts telling me about all the contracts that we've got coming. I say we, I've been working with him, so I class it as a royal we, but he's getting the contracts now, and he's getting the money, and he's talking about the kids and how he's going to help his kids. And now his wife's happier. So the relationship's stronger. Yeah. That's an impact. And if you could do something once and you replicate it and it comes off twice and you try a little bit harder and you get 4 times return, now you've got a scalable model. So all of that I'm finding far more exciting, challenging, and ultimately rewarding. Yeah. And I will be honest with you, Bluefish would make me a lot of money. It ain't cheap to get married by the Pope, okay? Yeah. But it was draining. I guarantee you I would never do that again. I actually came back from Italy where I was living in the penthouse of the Hotel de Russi, a 4-star hotel in center of Rome, full expenses. Mm-hmm. Flying first class, full expenses. I was there for around 6.5 to 7 months.
Oh my gosh.
I would forget the amount of money I made. Mm-hmm. I would never do that again. I couldn't sustain it. It was painful, you know? But now I'm getting the chance to actually work with people that we're creating impact. We're creating longevity. We're creating a difference. I may not make as much money as getting you married by the Pope, but it's sustainable. Yeah. It's longer, it's reoccurring, and it's far more exciting. And the key word, rewarding.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking earlier, going back to Claire, that if it weren't for Claire, I mean, all the people I've met, aside from you, all the people that I've met, I've gotten to know through you, gotten to know through the Speakeasy. None of us would know each other if it weren't for you taking the route you did all those years ago. And so the lesson to people for people, in my opinion, is, first of all, have supportive people around you who can see through your BS and be honest with you. But secondly, keep your mind open and take the journey, and don't be afraid of going off in different directions. Because I think most people, once they had Bluefish, it was so successful, they would have been afraid to try to do anything else. They would have been afraid to take the risk of doing something like you're doing now.
I didn't know it was going to be a risk, because quite simply, we didn't think it was going to be anything.
Yeah.
When it suddenly started to present itself, and I suddenly could bear in mind, the funny thing was, when the book came out, I was called up to New York, and they were going over this social thing. And she was very, very concerned about my social awareness and my social profile. And the marketing girl, who quite simply looked as though she was on a freaking school trip, she looked so young. And she actually said to me, she said, "We need to work on your social." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, we need to work." And this was the funny thing. "We need to work on your credibility." Now, at the time, I had just had an 8-page article in Forbes with Elon Musk and Sir Elton John. Okay, not Elton John, Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, I said, "I got this report, I just had this article. That's good credibility." And she said, "That's great, but no one reads Forbes. I looked at your Instagram, you only have 16 people following you." And that's what she focused it on. And I was like, "Are you kidding?" And I swear probably 15 of those 16 were lost and, followed me by mistake.
Funny.
But I didn't know where this was going. I think, I don't know what I'm on now, 54,000 or something stupid like that. But it just suddenly starts growing, and you go, hang on a minute.
Exponentially.
Yeah, I haven't released a book. I've created a movement.
Yeah.
And that's why, and the movement, once something starts moving, it consumes whatever's in front of it.
Yeah.
So the events, the course, a second book, the t-shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
All of these different things suddenly start coming forward, and you go, hey, let's try it. Let's play. And it's a hell of a journey, and I'm really enjoying it. And we're not done yet by far.
What you have done is made so many people believe in themselves again. It's a gift.
Yeah.
The book is a gift. And I'm just so thankful that I heard you on that podcast that day, and, across it, read the book, everything along the way. I'm just so thankful that I did. And I have not announced this, but you mentioned it, so I'm going to go on and say it, that yes, I am writing a new book, Disrupt Your Now. No, I was trying to decide when I was going to announce it, so I'm going to do it now. I'm glad. It's going to be called Disrupt Your Now, the Successful Entrepreneur's Guide to Reimagining Your Business and Life. And I'll be talking, my cousin Charles Kipps, who is a screenwriter and producer, he and I will be talking with a lot of successful entrepreneurs and putting together a book of advice from them about how you can reimagine your own life and get unstuck, especially now when everybody's so afraid. Steve is going to be in the book, and Jeffrey Madoff, and I'm not going to tell who else yet, but lots of cool people, and I'm really excited about it, and I really appreciate your support in that, Steve.
Well, we already know some of the people that are going to be in the book, so I'm telling anyone that's out there, be ready, because these people are rock stars. And I would guarantee you that just on the name, and you've just mentioned one of them, name alone, you probably don't know most of the people or what they do if you just got the name.
Right.
And then if it was explained what they did, what they controlled, what they designed, what they built, what they franchised, you'd go, whoa, that guy?
Yeah.
And so, it's pretty special. That's going to be a killer of a book.
The people behind the scenes that the famous people look to.
Oh, exactly. The people that really actually turn the dial.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you have lots more things lined up for the 3rd anniversary celebration. But once again, go buy the book, Bluefishing. If you already have it, go read it again. It's on his site, stevedsims.com. It's on Amazon. It's everywhere. And he's got a free Facebook group.
An Entrepreneur's Advantage.
My group name, Steve. But so you can go join his free group and follow him on social media, and you can absorb all of his knowledge.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.